So yeah, Champ Ron here with episode number 115 on the Minding Your Business podcast. So glad that you could join me. And we have a very, very special guest that is joining us today. Mr. Mark Podolsky, the Land Geek, is joining us today. And we're super very excited to have him. He's going to speak to so many great things in YB community as it relates to his background and particularly real estate. And I want you to stick close, have your iPad out and your pen and pencil to take great notes, your paper, and let's do this. So, Mark, are you there?
Ron Brooks, I'm here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, excellent, man. I'm so glad you could take time out. I know you're busy in many different great and professional endeavors, Mark, man, but I appreciate you joining the Minding Your Business podcast. And you ready to dive in?
I'm ready. I'm a little sweaty. I'm nervous.
Oh, man, no need to be. There's no hot seat here, man. We're all looking to grow and learn, and you've done that certainly throughout your career and kind of reading about you. So, I guess to start off, Mark, by telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of professionally how you got your start.
Yeah, so we have to rewind to year 2000, and I was working with private equity groups as an investment banker in mergers and acquisitions. And Ron, it got so bad for me working there.
Oh, man.
45-minute commute, being micromanaged, feeling like I had no control, that long hours, high pressure, that I wouldn't get the Sunday blues, anticipating having to be back at work on Monday. I'd get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast.
Oh, my goodness,
and
man.
to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's going to these tax deed auctions. He's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar, and he's making a 300% return on his investment.
Whoa.
and Ron, I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average companies 10%, and I'm looking at companies all day long less than 10%. So I don't believe him.
Right.
So we go to New Mexico, and I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy up 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I put them up online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. 300%. It worked.
Well, wait a minute, Mark. So you took all your car money, your car repair money, and you put it on raw land. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, that was a fun conversation with my wife.
I was going to say.
Well, I said to her, look, worst case is we own raw land. I could barter with it.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I'm gonna store the garage with a bunch of stuff I can't sell.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like you got a bunch of magic beans that are in your garage that you're saying, hey, honey, I got to flip these to get our money back. And she's looking at you like, what?
Yeah. So that's how I convinced her. I'm like, look, worst thing is we got an asset.
Right.
That I can eventually do something with it. So then I took all that money from that first auction. I went to an auction in Arizona. And this is 2000. There's no one in the room. I'm buying up lots. I'm buying up acreage for nothing. And over the next 6 months, I sold all that land, and I made over $90,000 cash.
Wow.
So I go to my wife. I say, honey, I'm going to quit my investment banking job and become a full-time land investor. She's pregnant at the time. She's like,
wow.
Absolutely not. So I said, fine. So I worked land investing part-time, and it took 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income, and then I quit. And I've been doing it full-time ever since. And I've done over, as of today, I think 5,400 land deals.
Wow. So Mark, why land? Because many people get into real estate, obviously for property, for structures, right?
Right.
And of course, there again, not the short-sighted. There's many people that obviously buy real estate in terms of raw and developed land. But for you, why that? Why not rental property? Why not commercial property? With structures and dealing with tenants and all that type of thing.
Yeah, so I figured out very early on in my career that I don't like physical things. And if you came to my house, you're like, Mark, you have no business being a homeowner. It's, something goes wrong, I got to call the handyman.
Right.
So for me, I liked raw land because I had nothing to maintain, nothing to protect. Nobody's calling me up at 2 a.m. Hey, my land is leaking.
Right.
So I didn't have to deal with a tenant. Now, the problem with raw land is, well, how the heck do you make a cash flow like you would a rental house or an apartment building? So, Ron, if you want, I can walk you through the model. Let me take you step by step exactly how I do it.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so, Ron, where do you live?
So I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, you're in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to pretend that you own 10 acres of raw land in Texas.
Okay.
And sure enough, I go to the county treasurer. I get a list of people that owe back taxes on that land. And there's Ron Brooks, 10 acres, lives in Memphis, owes $200 in back taxes. So, Ron, you're advertising two things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to that raw land. You live in Memphis, the property is in Texas. And number two, you're distressed in some way financially. Because when we don't pay for things, like property taxes, we don't value them in the same way. You haven't paid your taxes. As a result, the treasurer keeps sending you letters saying, Ron, you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose this land to a tax deed or a tax lien investor.
Exactly.
So what I'll do is I'll look at the comparable sales on that 10-acre parcel for the last 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale. Let's say it's $10,000. And all I'm going to do is divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm not going to be like the housing guy saying I'm interested in buying your land. I don't want to be in the negotiation business. I don't want to be in the appraisal business. I'm going to say I'm offering you $2,500 for this property. And then I have a little legalese for an out for due diligence if the property taxes are too high. So you accept it, the $2,500. And I say, great, Ron. And because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing.
Right.
And then I'm going to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I'm going to confirm you still own the property. I'm going to confirm back taxes are only $200. I'm going to make sure there's no breaks in the chain of title. I'm going to make sure there's no liens or encumbrances. I'm going to find out what's compelling about the property. What's access like? I'm going to get pictures. I'm going to get the GIS map. I'm going to get aerial photos. All this is outsourced to my team in the Philippines. We pay about $11 for this information because we're hooked up to an American title company.
Okay.
Now, if it was $5,000 or more, I would actually close through a title company. But in this case, it's only $2,500, so I'm willing to take a little risk. So everything checks out. I send you a check for $2,300. I pay $200 to the treasurer. I own it free and clear. And now I'm going to sell this property 30 days or less. And you want to know who the best buyer is? I got a built-in best buyer. You know who it is?
Who would be the best buyer? I think I've got somewhat of an idea, but share with us who's the best buyers for these.
The neighbors.
Of course.
Neighbors.
Of course.
I send out neighbor letters saying, here's your opportunity. Expand your holdings, protect your privacy, protect your views. Get it now before I go to the open market. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyer's list. My buyer's list passes. I'm going to be marketing this all at the same time. I'm going to go to a little website you probably never heard of called Craigslist. It's the 10th most trafficked website in the United States. I'll go to an even smaller one you probably never heard of called Facebook.
Right.
I'll go to the marketplace and buy-sell groups. And then I'll go to the lands, landmodo.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. And these are buying and selling marketplaces just for raw land. And then I'm going to make it irresistible. So all I'm going to do is make it a car payment. I'll say I'm asking for a $2,500 down payment. And I want to get my money out on the down payment. I might go out 6 months. And then I'm making a car payment. Let's say $449 a month, 9% interest over the next 84 months.
Okay.
And essentially I've got a one-time sale. I got my money out. I've got passive income every single month coming in of $449 a month. Ron, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. Because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act.
Exactly.
All this onerous
Yeah, all the
legislation.
regulations. Right.
Exactly. So the game that we play is, can we create enough of these passive income land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses, and then we're working because we want to, not because we have to.
Gotcha. That makes all the sense in the world, Mark. So I guess let me go here with you then, because I've got gears turning and I've got people kind of raising their hand asking questions from our live audience.
Sure.
So your buyer's list, how do you develop that? Like go back to when you started. So you get these first 10 properties, you make a profit, you say, oh crap, this works. You get out of the kind of the, I mean, when you talk about regulations, there's nothing more regulated than investment banking. So you get out of that. And so how are you starting? Obviously you've made this profit. So you've got a little bit of, I guess, cash that you can work with to start your business, and buying more property, and it just kind of snowballs from there. And I'm sure you were very smart and meticulous in how you manage that. There's some folks that are listening that don't necessarily have, I guess, that to start with. Let's just say they've got very little to no cash.
I mean,
how would they get involved?
I've had clients literally start with no money, like nothing. I remember Paul Mandel started with $500. So he does a mailing in upstate New York. He gets a property worth $10,000, but he doesn't have $10,000. So he just says to the seller who wants to sell him a property for $10,000, hey, look, it's going to take me 90 days to do due diligence. We'll close in 90 days. The seller says, fine. So it takes 3 days to do due diligence. So he buys himself 87 days. He then goes out and sends out neighbor letters saying, here's this property, and it's available for X amount of dollars. Well, the neighbor raises his hand and says, I want to buy it. So Paul then says to the neighbor, okay, all you need to do is put down $20,000. Then he pays $10,000 to his seller, keeps $10,000, and makes an infinite ROI.
Right.
So that's the first way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just becoming the middleman. Yeah.
Becoming the middleman. The second way to do it is just assign the contract.
Yes.
As a wholesaler.
Like a wholesaler. Yeah.
Right. So the value of this business is getting the deal. Now, if you don't have $500 to start to send out mailers, then you need to figure out a way to get $500. So either, get an investor or get a partner, go into a little bit of debt. I mean, $500 isn't going to knock anybody out of the game.
No.
But, if you want to go into multifamily, you get one deal bad, and you're at BK for 10 years.
Right.
So that's the great thing about the land business is it's very, very low risk.
Yep, exactly. And so, Mark, I have a property here in Memphis that's on a kind of main thoroughfare. It's on the northern part of town. I actually got it from our county land bank. So I actually paid, believe it or not, I paid $50 for this lot. It's a corner lot.
I do believe it.
Yeah.
We see it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got this corner lot. It's actually by a church. And it's by a sweet lady in a nice blue house that has been very patient with me. But so anyway, I've got this. I imagine it's probably worth $3,000 to $4,000. I'm thinking.
Sure.
So what would be something you'd recommend on something like that? If I own it free and clear. There's no debt. There's no taxes. Nothing like that.
Right.
And it's in like I said, it's on a neighborhood, but it's on a main thoroughfare, so it's not like sitting smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood.
Sure.
There was a developer who actually, I don't know if he's still there, but he had torn down and rebuilt some houses along the same street. It's by a really big nonprofit too. That's across the street. They're pretty popular. So that's the reason I got it. Originally probably about 3 or 4 years ago. What would you recommend on something like that? I think there's some listeners who are saying, well, crap, I've got this land that, I'd love to do something with, and maybe I can propel that into starting my business. So, what kind of thoughts would you have on, a deal like that?
Yeah, and for your land, the neighbors look really good to me.
Sure.
Because, there's lots of use cases for them. So that's going to be your best start. But then if the neighbors don't want it for whatever reason, I might go to a landmodo.com and a landandfarm.com, and all you need to do is anchor that parcel so you can show a similar parcel, a comp. Let's say the comp out there is $10,000.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's only $5,000. Well, they got instant equity of $5,000. You only have $50 into the deal. If somebody doesn't have $5,000, you can even expand your buyer pool even more and say, look, put $1,000 down, and I'll owner finance the other $4,000. And now you've got this passive income coming in every single month.
Right. There you go.
And your money out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're the basically you're the bank, and like you say, seller owner financing. So you're the bank as well.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think that's a great way to propel someone's business.
Yeah, and then if you go to a site called geekpay.io, it's a set it and forget it automated way to collect that money via check. So you don't have to go and collect that monthly payment. It's a one-time set it and forget it. You get the routing number, the account number of your borrower, and then you can get the $1,000 down via credit card on GeekPay, and then they give you their checkbook information. But if the check bounces, it'll charge the credit card on file. So using this software, my default rate went from 8% to 4% because we don't do credit checks.
Right. Yeah, that's. I mean, I think that's phenomenal info. I hope, MYB, that you're taking this information down. Our guest today, Mark Podolsky, the Land Geek, and he's got the company Frontier Equity Properties LLC. So I imagine that's what you're doing business under, Mark?
Yeah, that's my investment company.
Awesome. Yep. Awesome. And so, talk about, let's kind of transition into, now that we've kind of helped people look at how they can get their business started. There's some people that listen to this podcast that are, moonlighting, or maybe they're starting their business, or they're trying to figure out what they want to do. They just know that they're tired of their boss. They're tired of the job. They're tired of always having to search for a job. I read something, Mark, recently that, the average person's on a job now in this country about 3 years and 8 months.
Wow.
And so if you look at that, and Tennessee's a right to work state. So basically, the basic English of that is, as you can get rid of them whenever you want, and they can get rid of you whenever they want, as long as there's not a legality. And so because people are constantly changing jobs like that, it's hard for them to build, there's no pensions or nothing like that. They can't build any kind of real wealth. And so, the challenge is going to be for a lot of our generations is, you kind of get to the end. The doctor says you can't go back to work and you're 70, 75 years old. And the only thing you've saved up is 10 or 15 grand or something like that. And you're hoping, you're going to make it through. And, you end up having more, life than money. And I think that's going to happen to a lot of people. And so, can you talk some about, that transition into, how this business can be, something that, if people are just dead set and they don't want to give up their job and they want to do it part time, they can, how they can do that. And if someone finds they want to do it full time, how they can do that and, kind of fire their boss and, move on into their own business.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny, Ron, because this is my mission of life now. And really my goal is to rid the world of what I call solo economic dependency. Yeah. Which means that if you're personally not working, you're not making any money, and that doesn't scale, that doesn't build wealth. And even if you love your job, you're still at risk. What happens if you get hurt? What happens if things beyond your control, like you get fired because the economy took a turn? Yeah. Or politics, or whatever it may be. If you have a job, you have a lot of risk. Right. And so now is the time to start finding ways to create those side hustles while you do have a job, and you can start, and you have the energy to start doing that. So, I would say like now is the time, and you have to, whether it's land investing or whatever it is, that's the only way to build real wealth is to scale. And so with my clients, 90% of our business is automated with software, inexpensive virtual assistants, and systems. So essentially, our clients work about an hour or two a day in their land business. I work 2 hours a week in Frontier Properties. And nothing makes me happier. We just had an event, and Tyler and Jen Kelly, Tyler was able to quit his job after 9 months of land investing. He replaced his income at his job. He's done 80 deals so far this year. And, they were so emotional. They were crying. They got 2 young kids that he never saw the kids. Now he's spending all this time with his kids. And it's, for me, seeing that transformation.
And that's incredible. And I see that a good bit. I mean, in my business, in my consulting business, particularly on the banking side, Mark, I see that all the time. And I also, I'm a support member from one of the career transition groups here in Memphis. And
right.
I see it all the time. People come in and they're so pre-wired to only think job. I mean, that's all they want to do is have you tell them, that you can call this person and you can start Monday, and it's so sad because, it's they get frustrated really easy. There's so much age discrimination. There's, again, the right to work state. You mentioned the politics of it. The way salaries are set up, people are accepting way below their value, just to, try to satisfy debt and put food on the table and keep a spouse happy. And, it's a tough existence. And so, I
get it. And a job does solve a money problem, but it doesn't solve a time problem. And this solves both. You can make money and you can buy time, because time is our only resource that is limited. We can always make more money. We can always figure out ways to hustle and make more money, whatever it might be, but we can't get more time. And so to me, that's really real wealth, is when you can work when you want, where you want, with whom you want. Monday for me is the same thing as Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't have to be anywhere. And same for you. I mean, that to me is total freedom. And that's what you want to get to. And for a lot of people, like a lot of my clients, we just set a very easy goal of $10,000 a month of passive income. But if you do the math on it, and that's $120,000 a year being thrown off with very little work.
Right.
So how much money would you have to save in the bank at 2% interest to get that same passive income? You have to save over $6 million.
Right. Exactly.
For a lot of people, that they would never be able to do that.
Yeah, matter of fact,
it's taking them 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, matter of fact, if you take most people's career from let's just say they go to college, right? And let's just say they come out of college anywhere between 22 and 24 years old, and they work until they're 60. For a lot of people, they're not going to make $6 million in their career with a college degree.
Right. Right. No, it's true. It's in a lot of ways, it's the best time ever to be a business owner, but it's also the worst time ever to have a job.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's an interesting quote. You might have to trademark that or copyright that or something, man. That's actually a good quote, because I see that all the time. But why do you think, Mark, there's so much fear in that transition? Is it just people's conditioning? I mean, it just seems like people want to do it. I'll talk to people all day. 10 out of 10 people all want to do it, but I guess making that transition is just really tough. I don't know.
No, I do think a lot of it is conditioning. A lot of it is what you see. So I think I was reading this book, Sapiens, by Yuval Noah Harari, about just the history of our species and how it came to be. It's a really great book, but one of the great lines in that book is, if you want to predict if someone's successful, it's as simple as looking at were their parents successful, because that's what they saw growing up.
Right.
What those types of people did to be successful, like what were those ingredients? And so if you didn't see that, you got to go out and find people to emulate, because it's not natural to you. In the same way, if I want to be, a great basketball player, I can't learn by watching my suburban kids, in my neighborhood. I'm going to have to go and see where, LeBron plays pickup ball.
Right.
The best play pickup ball and pick up, like, how hard are those kids playing? Like, if the kids here are practicing an hour a day, but those kids are practicing 8 hours because they love it. Like, it's different.
Right. No, it is.
It's a whole different thing. It's just what you see.
Yeah.
I don't believe in talent, honestly. There's a great book out there called The Talent Code. A little bit of talent is helpful, but it's really about that belief that you can do it, knowing someone in your neighborhood that did it, and working really, really hard and getting your reps in. And that's mastery.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I've always said this too. I mean, and I play basketball, so I appreciate you using that, that analogy. I maxed out my talent by playing against players that I knew were heads and shoulders better than me. Right. I mean, even from a kid, I play, part of how kids get good, part of how LeBron gets great is when he's 9 years old, he's playing against kids that are 12 or 13. So,
it's true. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are 6'8", 265 pounds.
Right.
But they're not as skilled as him.
No.
They say, you have to be born this way. But, look at a guy like Trae Young. Well, he's little. Or Steph Curry. These guys just, they had great mentors. Steph Curry's dad.
Yeah.
One of the best shooters ever. Trae Young's dad played college basketball. They just knew how to teach their kids and instill that love of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And in those instances and many others, even in instances where you didn't have a dad who played in the game and that sort of thing, it's just a matter of getting, like you say, in the right environment so that you can be nurtured. You can get, some level of mentorship and coaching. And again, you're playing against people that are heads and shoulders better than you. LeBron wouldn't have that kind of work ethic, like you say, if he was just going into the little rec center and playing, where he's, the next guy is 5'10" and he's 6'8", 6'9", and he's just, bullying everybody. He's not going to probably get that good. He's got to go in a gym where the other guy's trying to tear his head off. Right, which was Kobe. Yeah.
If you look at it, it's like, how can you met Kobe? He's like, oh my God, that guy works harder than everybody.
Right, exactly. That's what, as a matter of fact, a lot of the guys are quoted from the 2008 Olympic team as, seeing what that kind of work ethic is. I mean, a guy that's already a legend, they show up at, 7 a.m. for shoot around, and this guy's already dripping sweat because he's been there 2.5 hours working. And this is a guy that's got, championship rings and, if he retired that day, he'd go down as one of the greats. And he's still getting up working. So he just developed that killer kind of work ethic that then the little bit of talent you have gets maximized. So I think that applies to business as well. I mean, MYB, I hope that you're hearing what Mark and I are saying is that, it's not so much about you have this great inherent talent. It's some of that, but it's also, you've got to get around the right people. If you want to start your business, you've got to hang around business people and not just people posting memes on social media, but you've got to start attending business networking things. And you might say, well, Ron, I work too many hours. I don't have enough time. Well, now you're making excuses to pacify yourself. You're trying to, make an excuse to not go for what you want. And you just got to make a choice. If you're somewhere working 60 hours a week and you just can't, bear to let any of those hours go, then you got to look at your financial situation. You got to talk to your spouse, and I know a lot of you, you're trying to pacify a spouse because he or she's saying you got to do this, you got to do that. And they get upset when you don't. And they want to feel comfortable with, the savings and things like that. But like Mark and I are saying, you're not, it's going to be tough for you to save a lot of money working these jobs nowadays. It's just,
it's not like I don't have empathy. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
to struggle with a family and say, hey, I'm going to quit my job and take this big risk. Now, I planned it out, but if I guarantee you, if I look at how a lot of people work, they're not working as efficiently as they probably should.
Right.
An 8-hour workday is probably more like 3 or 4.
Right.
There's another 4 hours in there, but you can hustle at a side hustle and start planning now.
Yeah.
Doing that and go online instead of don't watch Netflix at night. Spend 30 minutes and sprint and work hard and learn from guys like you and change your environment. It's all about environment. I hung out with a bunch of people that ate bad and drank a lot of alcohol, I'd eat bad and drink alcohol.
Right.
Hang out with the right people.
Right, exactly. And, Mark, here's the thing, and even back in my days, I was groomed up through the banking world, not on the investment side, but the commercial side and retail banking. And yeah, you're right. I mean, an 8 or 9 hour day, how much time are you really, got your head buckled down working on a project? I mean, most of the time you're kind of goofing around. You're at the water cooler. You take a few extra minutes at lunch. You're screwing around on Facebook. You're posting. You're taking selfies on Instagram. You're doing all this other stuff, and then, like you say, you get home, you're eating dinner. You might watch the nightly news. You're trying to catch up on your favorite show. You're talking on the phone. So, people screw around a lot of time that they don't always realize. And so you have to start taking inventory of that time. And I tell people, like, if you're working an office job right now and you've got access to the internet and you're sitting in, like some of these people are in cubicles and offices where nobody's like walking around watching what you're doing from moment to moment. I mean, heck, you should be, if you're working 20 minutes on some project for them, you should equal that 15, 20 minutes for you. I mean, jump on the internet, start, like I said, researching things, connecting with people, building your network. When you go to these training classes, even at these jobs, like if you work for like these big Fortune 500 companies and you go to these big, trainings where they give you all these manuals and stuff, I always tell people, keep that stuff. I mean, you never know how you can use that, for your business. I mean, you get materials that are vetted by attorneys that they've spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on. Keep that stuff, use it for your business.
Yeah. It's all, you're always the bottleneck. If you think you can't raise money, then you can't raise money. But people out there are raising money every day.
Right.
So figure out how they're raising money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
so there's no limitation. The only limitation is your energy, effort, and time. That's it.
Yep, exactly. And people have to get past their fear too. I mean, I always tell people, write down what you're most fearful of if you start your business. And be completely honest. You're fearful about failing. You're fearful that your wife runs off with the kids and everybody on Facebook's going to know, and you're worried about, if you lose the house, if you lose the car, if you lose this, you lose that, everybody's going to know. You're afraid of fear. You're afraid of embarrassment. Write all those things down and then put the percentage of the risk of that happening. What's the risk that your husband's going to leave you because you started your business, or your wife? I mean, if they do, then they do. They weren't for you anyway.
Ron, I literally have mapped out how to be homeless. And I think I'd be very happy. Honestly, I'd be very happy homeless. My wife is on board. Like, we know we're going to move to Newport Beach. We're going to live on the beach, have a tent. I'm going to go to the public library, restart up again. There's some good food. I know where the mall is. They start throwing all this food away at night. I'm going to eat really well. I'll be back up in 6 months, and I'll be super happy. I'll be on the beach.
Right. Well, Mark, I don't know if anybody would go quite that far. I think, but your point makes sense. I had to go through. Yeah, but exactly. That is in all seriousness, that is the I guess the mindset mantra that you have to go through in your head is, I tell people, write down every single thing that the worst, from the worst case scenario on down. And most people's fears are very superficial and vain. They're worried about, well, mom and dad are going to be upset because they paid for business school. And, my wife's parents are going to think that this, or my husband's parents are going to think that. And, the people, I've been posting pictures of us together on Facebook, and now everybody's going to see that we're having, marriage trouble and blah, blah, blah. So they're really fearful of superficiality and vanity. And it's not to say that that's not legitimate, is that the likelihood of those things happening is very slim to none. I mean, like you mentioned, your wife had concerns about you buying those lot properties at first, but you explained to her you had a plan and you were buying an asset. Again, you weren't buying, magic popcorn beans that, or kernels that were supposed to pop up and sing, and you got them all in your garage.
Yeah, exactly. I told her, if you want to have a better life, it's very simple. You got to buy assets. What do the wealthy do? They buy assets. So let me have an opportunity to buy some assets here. money's not going to get us rich. I'm going to pay taxes and we're going to spend it. And next thing you know, it's going to take forever to save. Like, that's how you make money in this country.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what you got to save. It's not in the 401k. It's not in, a job salary. It's going to be in, like you say, buying assets. So, Mark, let's get into your book a little bit. Dirt Rich.
Yes.
Where can people find it? Obviously they're getting great nuggets from you right now. So I'm sure they're anxious to be able to find your book. So where do they find it and what can they expect when they get it?
Yeah, they can go on Amazon and get it. There's the audiobook on Audible. They can go on my website, thelandgeek.com/dirtrich, and get a link there. But what they're going to find in the book is it's a very easy read, and it's going to walk them through the model step by step, and it also goes through my story as well, which a lot of people appreciate. Because, I'm not, it wasn't just so easy for me.
Right.
I made some big mistakes, and I talk about it.
Yep, and that's incredible, and I can always appreciate that transparency, Mark, man, when you share that, because sometimes you get people that they share all the the everything that happened in the clouds, right? Everything lined up just right, and they never really share the dark side of it, and particularly not just the dark side of it, but then how they what are the steps they took to transition through that dark side. And so I appreciate you sharing the book, and NYB, definitely go out and go to the website that Mark mentioned, the sites, and get you a copy of the book. And in the show notes will be contact info for Mark. So I'd love for you guys to reach out to Mark if you got additional questions, if you've got thoughts, you got business ideas, you want to share your story with Mark. That sort of thing, definitely do that. But, Mark, let's stay on that topic. So, walk me through, if you had a day that, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs or business owners have that one day, maybe it's a month, maybe it's even a year, where you almost give up. Something happens, things start piling up on you, and you say, hell, I'm gonna go back to my job, or I'm gonna tuck my, head between my legs, or like that ostrich, I'm gonna stick my head in the sand and, just kind of wait this out, or I'm just going to give up. I mean, this is just too much. Did you have that time, that day or that month or that year? And if you did, Mark, how did you bow up to get through that?
Yeah. So I had a really, really bad year. So if you remember, I started in 2001. So 2001 till about 2008, 2009, I was just making tons and tons of money. But everybody was making tons of money in real estate.
Right,
but
of course.
The land business, I didn't really get hit until 2010. And it seemed like one day that half my income just went away.
Oh.
Because people were just stopped paying their land notes.
Oh, yeah.
They were losing their jobs. It was between paying me or paying for groceries. They chose groceries over me.
Of course.
And so, I have what we call Parkinson's law of money. The more money I made, the more money I spent. And I thought, oh, Ron, this is going to make me happy. I got the big house. That wasn't enough. So I got the big fancy luxury car. That wasn't enough. Then I had 3 kids. Public school wasn't good enough. I had to go to private school. And then sure enough, my wife worked at home, lived at, was a stay-at-home mom, but I thought, well, things are so good. Let's get her some help. 5 days a week, we had a house. We had someone to clean the house. Well, she didn't help with the kids, so we had to get a nanny 5 days a week. And I just built this personal overhead. And then all of a sudden, one day, all my income went down. And it was just such an ego hit to go from this big house, and we had to short sell that house to go to a 1,700 square foot rental. My house was 4,500 square feet.
Wow.
And we had to fire the staff. I had to look my kids in the eye and say, I know you've got good friends at this private school, but we can't do it anymore. We got to go to public school. And they had to do all that. and we had to move, and it was unbelievable. But what I found was there was nothing out there that was going to make me happy. Nothing out there was going to make me happy because I had it all, and I was still unhappy. It's never enough. And the reason that it's never enough is I never felt like enough. And so during that time, I figured out that, I don't need a lot. And instead of going out on a big dinner on Saturday night and spending money on a babysitter, we would stay home and play charades. And we were happier. And it was just a really interesting experience. And so, my wife was happier. I was happier. We stopped fighting about money because we didn't have anything to fight about. We had half the money.
Right.
And so having that limit was like a blessing. But at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go get a job. I didn't think I could survive the ego hit. And it was the best thing for me was having that humility and then figuring out that nothing out there is going to really make me happy and make me fulfilled. And it's all just, at the end of the day, the things that money can't buy. And for me, the things money can't buy is a fit body, a calm, tranquil mind, and loving relationships. And so when I put my focus on that, it took about 2 years to come back. And now, we live very simply and we know what's important. Those things are all very nice, don't get me wrong, and I enjoy them, but I don't have to have them in order for my self-worth to mean something.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I'm listening to you on that, Mark, and that's it's an incredible testimony, for someone, even like myself, that's a husband. I've got 3 kids, 3 daughters. So that's an incredible testimony. I think a lot of people in MYB community that are listening to this podcast can greatly relate to having family and having to rebound as a result of economic calamity around in the environment, or maybe mistakes that were made, or maybe things completely out of their control. And so I appreciate your transparency again on that, man, because I think that helps so many people get a frame of reference, because a lot of times when you're struggling, you think you're on an island and you're the only one and everybody else is doing great. And, it's easy to get into that kind of mindset. And then you hear what you just said and you realize that, that's one of the things that makes us common as human beings. We may not all come from the same place, or we may not all look alike when we're in the mirror, but we all have one common goal, and that's we all want to do a little better. And we all want to have peace and great relationships. And we want to be able to impact our community in a positive way. I mean, we all have that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like what you're saying, it's, nobody riots for free. Nobody, we all are suffering together in small and large ways. Some are more, just dramatic than others. But, look, I hate to bring it up, but, I looked at Anthony Bourdain and I used to say to my wife, that guy's got the best job in the world. Yeah. Can you imagine traveling around the world, eating food, being with these cool people, interesting people, being famous? And, he wasn't happy.
No, not at all. And I could give all kinds of examples of people when I worked for banks, and they would come in and you look at their balances and you're like, damn, I mean, what could this guy be down about? This guy's got comma after comma after comma, but he's right. Again, he's not happy. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to worry about where his next meal's coming from, but he doesn't get to enjoy. You know what I mean? He doesn't have those things that that are innate to us as human beings that, truly matter. And I remember those type of guys coming in, and they were just never happy. They were always barking. They were always kind of whining and griping about something, or, you know what I mean? And it's like, what's this guy mad about? I mean, this guy can walk outside and buy the whole street if he wanted to. But, he just never was happy, and that always would strike me, he's like the Grinch in the garbage can, it's like, you're like, dude, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. And I think once you have those things, that's true wealth. And, one of the ways to get there is, again, MYB is, what Mark's saying is not just about making money through investing and, lining your pockets and things. It's great to make, to generate money and support your family. But really, if you listen to what Mark and I are saying is, having freedom, having peace of mind, and having autonomy and control over your destiny and how you walk from day to day. Listen, Mark said it earlier, time is the most precious commodity. We can't generate more time. We can generate more income. There's a lot of things we can generate as human beings. Time is not one of them. And so I urge you to, as you're listening to this podcast and you get done and you go on about your way, think about that very point. Think about where you are in life, where you want to get to, and ultimately what you want. A title at a job is only that until they decide to strip that from you. Either you leave it or it leaves you. So, right. And so I always encourage our audience, Mark, to go and think through the righteousness of what you want to have, because at some point you move on and your social media accounts are gone and you're not there to post and you're not there to do anything else. And, what do you want your life to reflect? They never say anything about anybody. Oh, he was a great employee. That's right. You know what I mean? That's fine at the, when your coworkers come, but guess what happens? Before they even bury you good, they've already interviewed other people for your position. So
it's true.
It is what it is. So, Mark, what I guess in kind of wrapping up, man, I've had fun with this, and this has been one of the more fun podcasts that I've done, to be honest with you. And
that's because I love NBA.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you love basketball. So now I'm a basketball guy too. So I think that's what did it. But as we wrap up,
I'm kidding.
Yeah. What as we wrap up, man, what are 2 or 3 just kind of best practices you have for people that are in business? Some folks are out here doing extremely well, and how they define doing well. Some people are really struggling. So what are the kind of 2 or 3 best practices from you that you can share with the audience?
Well, I think my best practice is what you just said. So some people are doing well, and we can look at those people that are doing well. They may not be happy. We can look at other people who are struggling. They're struggling. They're looking at what they don't have. They're not happy. And I think that if it's all between our head, right? It's just how we interpret it. And so I think once you become aware of that little voice in your head that won't shut up, you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
And that voice is ultimately very negative. It's like, I don't have this, I don't have that. But once you kind of get a sense of awareness of it, and you realize that you don't have to take that voice seriously, and you probably shouldn't, because they flip-flop on, like this or that. So for me, daily meditation has been life-saving, because no matter what happens in my life that I can't control, and between you and me, I can't control my thoughts. Do you know the next thing you're going to think?
What's that?
I don't know. What's the next thing you're going to think? I don't know the next thing I'm going to think.
No.
It just happens.
Right, exactly.
So so we're just the ones observing our thoughts. And once you get a little space from that, then you can reframe anything that happens to you in life. And then you can just sit back and be grateful for all the things you do have in life and not focus on the things you don't. And for me, mindfulness meditation has really been life-saving. I combine that with a little bit of Stoic philosophy. I think those 2 things, no matter what happens to your life, because there's so much of it we can't control, but what we can control is how we experience it. And can we just sit back and experience life and enjoy it? Because we only get to go around once, so we might as well enjoy it no matter what happens to us. Yeah. And I think that's like the big takeaway for me. What helps me, no matter what happens, if a VA quits, if a deal goes bad, if the bank account is down, it's okay. Look what I do have. I get to spend time with Ron Brooks, learning something new. And, what a blessing that is to be alive today, to live in the United States. I could have been born in Syria. There could be bombs dropping on me right now.
Right.
I mean, there's so many things that I can look at my life, and just to get clean water is unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are the things I want to focus on, is all the blessings in my life, not what I don't have. I can deal with those things like problems. When it's time to deal with them, I'll deal with them like anything else. But I don't need to ruminate on them and listen to that monkey mind and have it ruin my day.
Yeah, there you go. And I think that sums it all up just perfectly, Mark. Mark Podolsky, The Land Geek. TheLandGeek.com, is that correct? That's the website?
Yeah, in fact, Ron, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to offer your listeners a free gift. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'd be awesome. If they go to landgeek.com/myb, there is a $97 passive income launch kit course that is free for them. Oh, wow. So MYB, if you heard that, that is thelandgeek.com/MYB, and you can claim your free gift. And what can they expect from the course, Mark? It's going to be a deep dive into what we discussed. Awesome. On the model. It's going to teach them step by step how to buy and sell raw land. Yep, that's awesome. So again, free of charge, MYB. So I expect you to definitely look to leverage this as an opportunity if you're interested in starting your business around raw land. Definitely take this up. That's thelandgeek.com/MYB. Listen, Mark, this has been a pleasure, man. Again, I know you're busy. It's later in the day, but I appreciate you taking time to join on with me. I definitely want to remain in touch, so I'll definitely be calling you up and talk maybe through a few deals or two. Yeah, Ron, I would love it. I'd love to have you on my Art of Passive Income podcast as well. Yeah, and get to know you better. And thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you. Absolutely. And I didn't mention the podcast, but where can our listeners find your podcast so they could add that to their list of getting great content? Yeah, we're all over the place, but iTunes, and Google, and Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just the Art of Passive Income podcast. If you do a Google search for it, you'll find it. Yep. Excellent. So I'm going to make sure I add that to my repertoire as well. And MYB, I encourage you to add great podcasts like that to your listenership, because, again, that's part of what Mark and I were talking about earlier about being around the right people. One of the ways you can do that is you live in a time where you can do that through the internet. So you don't have to be in the same city as Mark to connect with him, which that's the beautiful thing. And living in today's time. So definitely look to do that and add Mark to your network through his podcast, and then share it with your friends and your family and your coworkers and just around your community to tune into Mark's podcast, The Art of Passive Income. Great name for a podcast there. So, Mark, again, thank you so much. Best wishes to you personally and professionally. And if you find that I can be a resource in one of your endeavors, certainly let me know. I definitely will. Thanks, Ron. All right. Have a great day, Mark. We'll talk soon. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right. So that is Mark Podolsky, The Land Geek. That's thelandgeek.com. You guys heard some great nuggets in our dialogue. That was a fun dialogue for me. So I definitely enjoyed that. Look forward to connecting with Mark again. The free gift with his free course, normally a $97 value. You get free, MYB. Go to thelandgeek.com/MYB. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast. This is episode number 115 that we're wrapping up. I'm so excited about it. Our great guest, Mark Podolsky, The Land Geek, showing you how to start your business with raw land. Share this podcast. Give us a 5-star positive comment review on Apple Podcasts. That goes a long way to expand the reach of our show. And again, don't forget that we're powered by the Binge Podcast Network,
at onabinge.com, our flagship podcast on the Binge Podcast Network, The Startup Life, hosted by a great business partner and friend, Dominic Lawson. Shout out to him and his wife, Kenda, on their winning their award on this past week. If you can go on to my Facebook, you can connect with them and learn more about the great things that they're doing in the community, as well as all the great podcast shows and hosts that are on the Binge Podcast Network. We're expanding the network. It's growing. If you have a podcast or you're looking to start a podcast, I encourage you to go to onabinge.com, connect with us, and look to add your podcast to our network as we help you build your audience and kind of evolve your approach if need be. So again, Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. Go be great for yourself, be great for your family, be great for your community.